brick by brick and a stone by stone. It wasn't done alone. Spirit is the
Welcome.
You are listening to Menstruction.
I go by a black velvet.
You were able to replace your internet service provider in a reasonable amount of time for us to do this today. Because I know that shit was like, I already know. But sure, we can make it a human rights issue, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel a bit violated right now, actually. Talking about my internet.
Glad that you're here. Let's start with segment. Most ridiculous lyrics I heard last week. And the more I listen, the more you parse out certain things and you hear different things. You're like, yo, what? And now just paying attention to what certain songs are actually about and what they're talking about, it's just like, what? It's sometimes just like, yo, what? And it makes me wonder, like, how the process works in the music industry. Like, where are the checks and balances? Like, why is a producer not tapping somebody on the shoulder like, hey, are you sure? You know, the A&Rs, where are they at? You know, your manager, where are they? Shit, do you not have friends? Where are your real friends to just be like, hey, man, before you release that, are you sure? Are you sure?
Let me offer a counterpoint. I personally do believe that for a majority of these artists in the mainstream, the A&Rs, managers, CEOs, producers are all in the building during the recording.
That's right? Even worse.
I mean, it depends on the artist. You know, perhaps the more ridiculous it sounds. Because we could take Ice Spice for an example. She may be a lyrical genius, a lyrical mastermind, but we would never know. Because perhaps
I'm just gonna disagree with you right there. She's not. Because that's the thing, and I let me just state this too, since we're going here, because I want to be completely transparent. When Isis first dropped, and I call her by her government name because the first name is Isis, and I think that's a beautiful name. But when she first dropped, I immediately said to myself, I sincerely hope that if she actually has skill, that it comes out at some point and that it is actually part of her branding and her career and that they don't focus solely on her appearance. I hope. And then the track came out. I don't remember what the title of that first track was. That was big, but that dropped. Wasn't really that good. And I think the next big thing was The Boy's a Liar, which, if we're going to be honest, Pink Panthers carried that whole song. And there was that other joint with the SpongeBob beat, which to me was a joke. Like, that was comedy hip hop. That should have been on a comedy album. It seems like it's not about the music. It's not about the skill. They got her up there because she's fair-skinned, because her waist to hip ratio is optimal for people who don't get to see that in their day-to-day life. And then, you know, she's got the artificial red hair thing. So they're just playing on all of the fetishes of the people who just can't get it like that. And it's just sad. It's sad. Because like you just said, if she does have actual talent, we'll never know.
We'll never know. Absolutely, we'll never know. And you're right. That is her brand. That's her current brand.
That's so tragic, though.
You're not going to hear her collabing with No Name. You're not going to hear her drop any conscious rap.
She's definitely not going to collab with No Name. That would be an insult. I wouldn't even want to see that. I wouldn't even want to listen to that.
So that's why I make the argument of, I think everybody in Ice Spice's camp knows exactly what they're doing. And everybody is in that studio 24/7, seeing everything that she drops and overseeing it.
Damn. That goes back to my initial point. You got all these people in the room and no one is doing any checks and balances because it doesn't actually matter. So, with that, most ridiculous lyrics I heard last week. An album that I keep on rotation. No, I'm not going to say rotation, but that, you know, from time to time, I'll go back to just for some good audio eats. Is 2014 Forest Hills Drive. Classic album in my personal opinion. One of Cole's greatest albums, I would say. Track we're focusing on that I was listening to, apparently. Now, the second verse has always got me for some reason because it just, to me, is such a departure from the first verse. Let me go here. Let me read this to you.
Please, preach.
I'm gonna go to the very end of the second verse. And Jermaine Cole said, I'm taking off like Boeing on a big ass Boeing and getting head like a coin toss. Too easy. Now, given how quality I feel that album was, and still is, what this track is supposed to be about, talking about, looking back on his journey to success and the people and time that he's overlooked. And then to provide that at the end, or really anywhere in the track, but especially within the second verse, after saying all the gratuitous things that he was saying, it's like, Cole, why? And this again goes back to, like I was saying earlier, where are the people to be like, hey, man, hey, are you sure you want to release that like that? You don't want to rewrite, re-record. Like, what the fuck is that?
Well, clearly they knew that it would be culturally and historically significant because we're talking about it 10 years later.
No. But if that's the argument you want to make, you go ahead and pad that argument, because I'm on the complete opposite side of that.
Well,
if you're on the defense, then I'm on the prosecution.
I mean, genuinely, you can call me the bailiff because I'm rather neutral to this. Cole has said outrageous things in the past. Surprisingly, I'm surprised you didn't even bring up Wet Dreams, right? There's plenty. Right. Yeah,
but Wet Dreams is a great track, though. It's a storytelling track. So to say ridiculous things makes sense because you're following a line of thought, right? That's the whole point of the track. It's stream of consciousness storytelling. So that's different. This is not that. Apparently, it's not that.
Apparently, it is. So.
All right.
See, that's why I feel like Kendrick's afraid of J. Cole at this point in time. Because
all right,
when you think about Boeing and Boeing, right? And with the scandals and allegations of Boeing within the last 5 months of this year, it is so interesting that he said that. I guess it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Please enlighten the people.
I mean, I don't really have much to say about it, but, with the recent allegations of Boeing being a rather unsafe mode of transport and certain whistleblowers going boing, as Cole would put it.
I don't know what that means. What whistleblowers going boing? What are you talking about?
Going boing into the sky, as in heaven, right? Yes.
Yeah. That was a completely reasonable assumption to make. Yes, absolutely.
Allegedly, So it's overall, like, on all seriousness, it is a ridiculous line, but I haven't heard apparently in a very long time. But the overall vibe that I gotten from it was a joyous track, a celebratory track. I believe it was either the last song of 2014 or second from the bottom, covering Love.
It's third from last.
Third from last. Okay, good. So I was pretty close. So, he's joyous. You got the choir singing, I got my head, right? And just knowing Cole as a hard artist, this is one of the things that I don't really like about Cole. I love everything else about him, is that he'll always find a way, more often than not, a creative way to talk about his sexual status, right? About either how he's messing with somebody or how he's, it's a staple with J. Cole. So this line doesn't surprise me at all. Thank you.
I stand on it that I'm disappointed. It got past me plenty of times. I think just caught up in the overall vibe of the track and how sentimental it's supposed to be. I think my ears glossed over it for many years. I don't like it. And like I said, there are a few things in that verse where I'm just like, why are you playing? Reflective, Cole. We like that. And then you say boing. You're a grown ass man. No grown ass man should ever unironically be using the word boing. But whatever, man. It's like a multi-platinum album, I'm pretty sure. So whatever the case may be.
Yes, multi-platinum, no features. That's where the joke started.
From the ridiculous to the talented, we are here for another episode of Notable Quotables.
If you saw me squinting at the camera, that's because I was rereading, apparently, for myself, just so I can find that line. And there's some interesting things in verse 2. So this is clearly a platform that does the work. This is a platform that does the work, the Black Velvet channel. If you want content like this on the daily, make sure you subscribe, check them out. This is your go-to.
Word. Now that we have attempted to establish our credibility as critics, we are now going to flip the script and criticize ourselves, right? Because we ourselves are artists. And so this is a show where we take some of our previous work and we break that down as the avid listener should and would, and see, do we have any, Boeing type bullshit in our work?
Absolutely. I know I do. I'll be the first to admit it.
I can say with confidence that I do too, but I cleverly buried all those tracks. Amazing.
Okay. Yeah, I still have my email MP3s. It's been about 6 years. I could pull out a collection or two. Wonderful. So where would you like to start, brother?
Well, what are we analyzing today?
Well, we are going to be analyzing the 2020 track?
Nah, this is 16, 18? Hold on, let me think. 16, that sounds right.
16.
Yep.
Wow. I guess that's fair because there was a Goosebumps sample.
Hey, when did that song come out? Because there was.
16.
I don't even remember.
16,
oh, did it?
17,
that was
bro.
a 16?
Bro,
okay.
It was like, 15 to 16, bro.
That was around the time where everyone, I'm not going to say everyone, but, all of the pseudo internet rappers, they were all flipping the Goosebumps beat. And, like, everybody had a freestyle on it. And that was, like, during that craze. I remember that. And I used to watch a lot of those. And some of them were really quality and some of them were absolute dumpster juice. So, it was a magical time. It's a magical time.
Absolutely. And this track is magical and nostalgic for me as well. I remember my first time hearing it. Was not surprised at the lyrical quality, but thankfully I get to say happily that I'll be going into this one blind. I shall be leading the discussion for today since these are not my lyrics.
Man, 2016 Black Velvet, talk about it.
Yes.
I can only be interested in what your thoughts are going to be.
Yeah. We'll have a very fun dialogue. So off the bat, okay, Juice, I see you. Bring that beat back. Yeah, that's Juice right there. This Black Velvet. I don't really know what sound Velvet makes, but y'all gonna like this sound right here. I'm gonna call this remix the remix. Yeah. Wow. So talk to us about that introduction. Why not just leave that part silent? Why'd you feel like you had to talk?
Hey, I don't like the way you asked that question. What is that tone of judgment?
Hey,
hello?
Man, I'm very neutral, man. These are just facts asked by our readers, man. Why?
Man, no one's asking why didn't you just shut your mouth right there? That's insane. All right, so for context, this is the beginning of the track. The instrumental used for this was used by someone that I was friends with at the time. who went by the name of Juice God. Okay. And he had recorded a track because we used to go to the studio together, right? It was a group of three of us. And so we would come in with our ideas and concepts and everything. And we'd have real studio sessions, like back to back. One person finished their track, you get out the booth, cue my shit up and go. And we would, because we had a limited amount of time. Because the studio we were using, they were nice enough to allow us to do it for free. But that also meant that we had to do it on that person's time. So we were trying to maximize that time when we went in there. So that's how that went. So when I heard the instrumental for his shit, I was like, nah. I was like, you gotta let me do a remix on that because I gotta rip it. So beginning of this track is actually the end of his song, and it fades out, and then the beat restarts, and then I go. So this is me cueing myself in, and this I didn't make this conversation up. I literally was saying that to him because he was standing next to me outside of the booth, but the booth had it had a door that was see-through. So usually we would stand outside when the rest of us were recording just to hype each other up. And so he was literally standing. So I was looking at him the way the booth was set up. I was looking at him when I was recording. And so I said that to him.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. I think we all have had those moments, at least for us home studio rappers or on a budget studio rappers, where you just have fun with the homies. So thank you for sharing that. Believe it or not, that's very relevant context. So verse 1, I got a grip now, seeing all the things I got to get now. Touchdown, made a connection with the web, killed it. Those are hits now. I think it fits now. I ate trial, tribulation, then I shit determination. Huh.
Ooh-wee. Always been one for the imagery, you know?
And I think that's something that has always been carried throughout your career as Black Velvet. You're able to paint a picture while also making it sound very smooth and velvety sonically. Yeah. So anything that you like to tell us about this first bar?
I mean, it's all pretty straightforward because this was at a time where I wasn't as clever as I have learned to be with wordsmithing. And so, when building entendres and different meanings, the key is to use less words, right? You want to be as interpretive as possible. Here, I wasn't as good at that time, so I was kind of spelling it out at that time. But, beginner, I was trying to make it. So, I said I got a grip now because the name of the track is Grip, which was the name of his track. So I just kept the title and called it the Grip Remix because that makes sense. So I did 3 flips on the word hit, which if I was more clever, I would have been able to do without having to explain those 3 different things, but whatever. So you touchdown, right? Because that's in football, usually get hit. As you're going for the touchdown, made a connection with the web, a viral hit. And then when someone gets killed, you're putting a hit out on them. So that was me attempting to do that at that time. Baby BV, getting there. It's getting there.
I love it. I didn't hit too many C notes. Nominate me for the Grammys. Got bars between every line and hook. Just check the nooks and crannies. Got a groupie now with a fat ass. So I guess I'll call her Fanny. Now that's easy. That's easy.
Yeah.
And of course, I love the next one, but let me know if at any point in time I'm reading this out of order and or stopping too short.
Yeah.
Okay. So C notes. So I'm gonna ask you about these, of course, man, but immediately C notes, right? Literally C notes, as far as, A, B, C on a scale. And
right.
C notes as in $100 bills, right? Or 100. Nominate me for the Grammys. Got bars between every line and hook. So again, with that Black Velvet type of swagger that you really came into in your adulthood of, we need to reread these lines multiple times in order to understand the true meaning and definition behind the surface.
Right.
Yes. So what do you have to say about that?
I would ask you, since you were listening, right? And I'm familiar with the track because I recorded it, but from a listening standpoint, especially this part, because I feel like this is when the flow starts to pick up. How did that sound?
That's a good question. Honestly, I don't recall in particular. But what I do
Okay.
know is, is that for the entire verse, I was able to parse out that this was an older BV track. And I think the part that I'm always fond of every time I listen to it is she was out of breath when I took her drawers off. Those were panties, So I always know when that line's coming up. So as far as the bar preceding it, I
Yeah.
can't tell you how it sounds, but I can say that it set the foundation for that next line to be absolutely incredible. When I was listening to it, I had felt more of a ABC type of flow, if that makes sense,
Okay.
comparatively to the things that you do now. So when we take a
Right.
look at the next track, of course, I listen to Sacrilegious all the time, right?
Yeah.
But even just your catalog now, right? So I won't be able to mimic the flow perfectly, but this was how I heard it from my perspective.
Yeah.
I hit too many C notes, nominate me for the Grammys. Got bars between every look at line and hook. Just check the nooks and crannies, as Monster would say. Save your community and make sure you eat your greens. And there's nothing wrong with that because we all have starting songs like that. I mean, you started before me,
Right.
but even my 2017, 2018 catalog was no, 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 no. It wasn't as conversational. It was as if we were reading off of a paper. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
a hip hop head, that's how I knew.
And I agree. Like I said, this was Baby BV, and I quite literally was reading off paper, as I still do, because I write my own raps, say OV ho, but I'm just saying,
Oh yeah.
so I still do, but the process has matured and developed over time, so it definitely does sound better. But yeah, it definitely. I mean, you can even see it just from the bar structure. Try to match up words that don't necessarily have to go together. Maybe don't piece together so neatly because you don't have to do that. So that's ultimately what it comes down to. But yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. She was out of breath when I took her drawers off. Those were panties. Incredible line. And with her palm, she kept me calm. She's so handy. And they wonder why I need the grandiose. Haters only want to call me gross. Uh, uh, uh. So how do we? That's the end of the bar, right?
For that one, yeah.
Perfect. So, what made you? I've always been curious about this.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that panties line? It's so clever.
um, well, like I said, I've always been a visionary. I've always been a visual thinker. That's where I think best. And so when I'm writing, and this is something we've discussed ad nauseum, my goal is always to paint pictures with the words because I can't just create the pictures. I don't have that kind of artistic ability, but I get words. I just remember back then, way more then than now, I just wanted to be so clever. I just wanted to be clever. And so when I would write, I was just like, however I can make words work. And it's just like, wow, what made you say that? But I wasn't thinking about context and does it make sense and does it go together? Those things matter too, which I factor in a lot more now and making all of that come together. Back then it was just like, fuck if it makes sense and if it's actually cohesive. It just got to be clever. So when I was doing that, that's kind of the energy I was approaching was when I came up with that line. And so, I was just trying to come up with clever ways to say everything. The C notes and the Grammys, the bars and the nooks and crannies. And then I'm like, okay, day two, you could tell this was back then because I'm just lying. I was just lying my ass off. I have never had any groupies in my life. I don't know what that's like. I don't even want to know what that's like. That was not my focus in life at that time. I was supposed to be graduating high school.
He had his priorities right.
Right. After that, I just know I was trying to be super clever and I know when I was thinking of groupies and like the imagery I could build, and I was like constantly, usually you see some kind of imagery of them passing out. I was like, okay, how can I incorporate that being out of breath? How can I make that work? And then I was like, out of breath, you're panting, hyperventilating panties. And then it was like, they throw in their underwear, right? Because that's a trope that used to be used all the time. So I was like, it all goes together. So I just thought it worked.
And you were 15, 16 coming up with this?
I was probably 16 going on 17 at this time.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it just goes to show that you can still be lyrically clever as well as a scholar. I look to the homies and I say, let's toast, because I got the bread now, so let's make the most. Let's go. Throw holy water on my flames, make holy smokes. Keep throwing dirt upon my name, you'll make a fucking moat. He wrote them lines with half his brain, the boy's a fucking goat. When I walk in, they don't fear me because they know I got jokes. Black Velvet does black magic in the booth, it's a hoax. Wow, just a lot of heavy hitter lines here, honestly. I know a standout line for me on this is, the simplest one, but keep throwing dirt upon my name, you'll make a fucking moat, right?
Yeah.
And when I think about that is, even if you still attempt to besmirch me and my name, it'll still be put to good use, and you're not touching me, because moats are meant to separate, while the river and the water still circumambulates the castle and or living quarters. And lastly,
yes, sir.
When I walk in, they don't fear me because they know I got jokes. So that's, it's not a ruggedly hard line, but it's the truth as well, because you've always been a very funny guy, not by any means a fool or haphazard, but you know how to generate the laughableness and the seriousness. You find a great balance between it. So this is just good. This is really good.
I enjoy being cheeky, when I'm writing. That's just one of those things where it's like, I'm always going for those aha moments, like that little side eye, like, you said that, huh? I like those moments. I've always been competitive as well, with everything that I do. So it's like going into the studio with the other two guys I used to go with, it was always a competition, an unspoken one, but it was like I was competing to be the best in that recording session. I'm trying to come out with the best tracks, the most quality lines. I'm trying to say the coolest shit. That was my goal, right? So again, knowing that I had limited time to get recording that, I was like, well, I have to make that time count. And so that's also what kind of gave the energy to coming up with lines like this, where it's like, I'm trying to show these boys, like, yeah, we're friends, but I'm still trying to murk you. Like, I need you to know that I am the best in here right now. I'm setting the standard.
Okay. Oh, this is good. Speaking of J. Cole. Yeah, speaking of J. Cole, let's hit this right here. This picture I'm painting for your eyes only. I'm a young Cole. They're getting sick of me, but I'm going viral like a damn cold. Ugh. Spitting fire till I'm tired. The right combination, that's the damn code. Ugh. Beast mode. Feast mode. Fuck beef. Herbivore. Now what's the skull? See the remix. I could feel it. It's in my double helix. Ugh. Tighten up the competition. They should call me Fix It Felix. Ugh. You should shout me. Talk about me. Because BV is the fucking realist. I wasn't done. Wow. Okay. I mean, again, off the bat, just this entire latter half of the verse is just hitting you one by one with lots of things that if you don't slow down, you're not going to catch it. One that's a standout for me on this, of course, is see the remix. I could feel it. It's in my double helix and or DNA, right? And viral like a damn cold. It's just like, are these, would you say that this writing this verse was comfortable for you, or did it take some time to get all of this stuff down?
It always takes time, because I take a lot of time to craft verses, for this very reason. But it's always comfortable for me too, because the way I write is the way I think. So it's not like I have to go into a certain space or I have to try extra hard to come up with these kinds of things. This for me is where I am most comfortable because this is how I think. This is how I write. This is how I create. That's how the words come to me. Now, sometimes I might find a word or a theme or a concept that I really want to incorporate, and I'll slave over that one word or concept for a long time, right? Just to make sure that I get it and I figure out how many different ways I can connect it to the next thing. And that's something that's like extremely important in that instance. But sometimes, a lot of times, it'll just come to me very seamlessly.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Notable Quotables. But before we go any further, we got some ground rules over here. Okay. Number one, you need to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Like, what are we doing? Secondly, you need to get over there to the podcast. You need to subscribe to that channel. Or on your favorite streaming platform, you need to go ahead and follow. And lastly, you need to get over to the Patreon if you want to see the rest of this episode. Do we understand each other? All right.